안녕하세요. 하나하나 한국어입니다. In this video, we're going to study very important grammar points. I see many of my students are extremely confused when to use 이다 and when to use 있다. This issue is inevitable as an English speaker for their first language. So I'm going to clarify in this video when to use 있다 and when to use 이다. So you can repeat multiple times until you get used to everything. And then after that, if you make a mistake, shame on you. Okay, let's try ourselves. Please compose the following sentences in Korean. Pause the video, try yourselves. Are you ready? Let's do this together. 자, I am a student. 어떻게 말해요? 저는 학생이에요. Number 2. I am at home. 어떻게 말해요? 저는 집에 있어요. Third one. I am pretty. 어떻게 말해요? 저는 예뻐요. Final one. I have a dog. 어떻게 말해요? 저는 개가 있어요. Crazy system, isn't it? So in English, these three cases are all the same structure. You do use be verb. What is be verb? Am, is, are, was, were. These are be verbs, isn't it? So in English, you use the same structure, but in Korean, you have to distinguish them into three different categories. And final one, when you explain about your possession, you use have here. However, for some reason, it is much natural to say 있어요 in Korean. In this video, I'm going to introduce these four different grammatical categories. The first one, we're talking about noun plus 이에요. In second part, we're going to talk about place에 있어요. Third part, we're going to talk about how to express in Korean the case where the adjective is located after the be verb. Finally, we're going to talk about the possession. So you possess something, you own something, you have something, and how to put it in a Korean sentence. Let's start with the first part. Noun plus 이다 form. When can you use it? A stuff is something, or a person is someone. Only in this structure you use noun plus 이다 form, okay? 자, let's see. Let's start with the present tense. I gave you the base form, noun 이다, but we always have to use the conjugated form, isn't it? noun이에요 or noun예요. What's the difference? Exactly, the 받침. 받침 있어요, 이에요 말해요. 받침 없어요, 예요 말해요. Could you make this example sentence in Korean? I am a doctor. 어떻게 말해요? 저는 의사예요. We have to use 예요 because 받침 없어요. 자, in questions, question sentences are exactly the same with the statements, just increase the intonation, isn't it? So, noun이에요 or noun예요. How would you say, are you a teacher? 어떻게 말해요? 선생님이에요. Here, we hardly use subject, you, in the sentences, isn't it? In Korean sentence, when you include the subject, you, often it sounds very rude. 자, let's talk about the past tense. 자, instead of 이다, we say 이었다. Why? Because this ot is particle for past tense, isn't it? So 이었다. Conjugated forms, noun이었어요 or noun이었어요. 자, how would you say I was a teacher? 저는 선생님이었어요. Compare the present tense here, 이에요, and past tense here, 이었어요. How about the question? Just increase the intonation. How would you say, were you a singer? 였어요? Again, we are hiding the subjects here because it's obvious in the context. 자, let's talk about the future tense. 자, future tense, we have to say noun일 거다. In conjugated form, noun일 거예요. So he will be an actor. He will be an actor. 어떻게 말해요? 그는 배우일 거예요. Very good. If you think about hard, though, it's not actually, this sentence is not actually a future tense, isn't it? It's more like prediction, guessing, or assumption, isn't it? So in Korean, it's exactly the same. So I will change this future tense into assumption. Again, we take the future tense grammatically, structurally. However, the function of the sentence is more for assumption, guessing something. Okay? The question takes a slightly different form. Instead of 일 거예요, let's use 일까요? Because it sounds more natural. Okay? So will she be a professor? 그녀는 교수님일까요? Okay? So just be careful for this future tense because as in English, in Korean, this future tense has different function. 자, how can we make them into negations? noun이가 아니다. Conjugated form, noun이 아니에요. Or noun가 아니에요. We use the subject marker here, 이가. So how would you say, I am not a doctor? 저는 의사가 아니에요. 자, in question, you just increase the intonation, isn't it? Are you not a teacher? 어떻게 말해요? 선생님이 아니에요. Again, subjects hidden. 자, let's talk about the past tense. 자, 아니다 becomes 아니었다 with the particle for the past tense. So conjugated form, 아니었어요. How would you say, I was not a teacher? 저는 선생님이 아니었어요. 자, in question, were you not a singer? 어떻게 말해요? 가수가 아니었어요? Very good. Okay, the final one, assumption. Again, the function of the sentence is assuming something, but we take the form of future tense, isn't it? So you have to say 아닐 거다, 아닐 거다. Conjugated form, 아닐 거예요. Done? 자, noun이 아닐 거예요. How would you say he can't be an actor? 는 배우가 아닐 거예요. Can't she be a professor? 그녀는 교수님이 아닐까요? Very good. Okay, let's do some exercises. Pause the video and please change these sentences into Korean. Okay, let's do it together. Are you an American? An American means American person, isn't it? So we can say 미국인이에요? 미국인이에요? How would you say, no, I'm not an American? We take the different structure, isn't it, for negation. 자, 아니요. 미국인이 아니에요. Don't forget this subject marker 이 or 가, okay? 자, final one. I am a British. 어떻게 말해요? 저는 영국인이에요. Or, obviously, you can hide this subject. 영국인이에요. 좋습니다. Very good. Let's move on to the second part. We're going to practice place에 있다. Something is located in, on, at, somewhere. So when we talk about the place, something exists at the place, we have to use this particular structure. Okay? 자, for example, I am at school. We are in Korea. She is in the toilet. He is staying at his friend's house. Okay, all of these sentences structures are the same. In English, you need be verbs or something equivalent to be verbs, and the prepositional phrase we say, because this phrase starts with the preposition like at, in, at. 자, in Korean, you don't have to be worried about preposition. 자, I'm at school. 어떻게 말해요? 학교에 있어요. So you need this structure, 있어요. And don't forget to put 에, the location marker. The second one, we are in Korea. 한국에 있어요. Don't forget the location marker, 에. She's in toilet. 화장실에 있어요. Again, don't forget the marker. Final one, he's staying at his friend's house. 친구 집에 있어요. Okay, how can we make them into negations? 자, how would you say I am not at school? 어떻게 말해요? If you said 저는 학교에 안 있어요, you're half correct because there are more correct phrase. What is it? 없어요. Why? 없다 is the opposite word from 있다, isn't it? 있다, 없다. 자, second one, we are not in Korea. 한국에 없어요. She's not in the toilet. 화장실에 없어요. He's not staying at his friend's house. 친구 집에 없어요. Okay? Remember, we don't use 에서 here. With the verb 있다 and other limited kinds of verbs, we have to use 에, not 에서. Okay? Please remember this. Let's do some exercises. Okay, pause the video, do it by yourselves. Okay, let's do it together. Where is Thomas? 어떻게 말해요? 토마스가 어디에 있어요? Don't forget this location marker. Is he in the toilet? 화장실에 있어요? No, he's not in the toilet. 어떻게 말해요? 아니요, 화장실에 없어요. He's at the classroom. 교실에 있어요. Very good. Let's move on to chapter 3. We're going to talk about how to say in Korean the case where the adjective is located after the be verb. 자, important message here. In Korean, verbs are not different from adjectives in terms of conjugation. Let me show you 3 examples. 자, here are the verbs 자다, 먹다, 공부하다. Let's change it to the spoken form, conjugated form. 자다 becomes 자요, 먹다, 먹어요, 공부하다, 공부해요. Simple. How about the adjectives? Let's look at this English first. In English, the usage of verb is structurally different from the usage of adjectives. To use adjectives in English, you need these be verbs. In Korean, nope. It's much simpler here. 자, 예쁘다, pretty, becomes 예뻐요. 작다 becomes 작아요. 친절하다, 친절해요. So look at this case, compare these two cells. They're exactly the same, isn't it? So we don't distinguish, in terms of conjugation, adjectives from verbs. However, look at this. I put adjectives that is located after be verb. Why? Because they're the other usage of adjective, like when, before noun. Look at these in English example. Pretty girl, small dog, kind teacher. So these pretty, small, kind adjectives, same one, located in front of the nouns and modify the following nouns, isn't it? In this case, we change the form. So, 예쁘다 becomes 예쁜. 작다 becomes 작은. 친절하다, 친절한. I'm not going to go into details, but if you see closely, you can find the pattern actually. Again, let me emphasize two things. First of all, in Korean, we don't particularly distinguish adjectives from verbs, especially in terms of conjugation. Secondly, adjectives in English, both in English and Korean, adjectives have two functions. One is after the be verb, one is noun modifier. Okay, how about negations? There are two ways to make them into negative sentences. For example, 자, first case, you put negation word 안 in front of the verb. In front of the verb, okay? So, I don't sleep, 안 자요. I don't eat, 안 먹어요. I don't study, let me tell you later. I am not pretty, we don't care. We say 안 예뻐요. I am not small, 안 작아요. I am not kind, 안 친절해요. 자, how about this 공부해요 part? Many vocabulary that ends with 하다, we have to put this negation 안 in between. So it's supposed to be 공부 안 해요. Again, 공부 안 해요. Okay, for this case, verb ending, 하다 ending, you have to put 안 in between. Okay? 자, the other way to make the sentence into negative sentence. 자, this case, you put negation after the verb. How? We use 지 않다. How do we conjugate? Get rid of 다 and just put 지 않다. Very easy. So, how would you say, I don't sleep? 자지 않아요. I don't eat. 먹지 않아요. I don't study. 공부하지 않아요. How about the adjectives? We don't have to care. I am not pretty. 예쁘지 않아요. I am not small. 작지 않아요. I am not kind. 친절하지 않아요. Okay, in these sentences, the subjects are all hidden, isn't it? 자, exercises. Pause the video, make these sentences into Korean. Okay, let's do it together. Are you cold? What is the base form of cold in Korean? 춥다, isn't it? Do you know how to conjugate it? 추워요, 추워요. So let's omit the subject. So we just say 추워요, 추워요. Are you cold? No, I'm not cold. How would you say? Two ways. 아니요, 안 추워요. Or 춥지 않아요. Final one, I'm warm. 자, warm, we have the base form 덥다. Conjugated form 더워요, 더워요. So this 추워요 and 더워요, or base form 춥다, 덥다, are 비읍 받침 irregular, isn't it? So I deal with many irregular verbs in another video, so please watch it. Final chapter. Noun 이 or noun가 있다. When you say you have something, someone has something. So when you talk about the possession, you have to choose this structure because it sounds much natural to native ear. 자, I have a dog. 어떻게 말해요? 개가 있어요. If you are familiar with the linguistic terminology, this is an object. This is a subject, verb, and object. because in English structure, object is located after the verb. However, this a dog becomes the subject here in Korean sentence. How do we know? 이 or 가 is a subject marker. Again, in English, it's an object. In Korean, it becomes a subject. Be careful. 자, how about the second one? Do you own a cat? 고양이가 있어요? Number 3, he has a pencil. 연필이 있어요. 연필이 있어요. Have we got milk? Do we have milk? 어떻게 말해요? 우유가 있어요? How do we make them into negation? For example, I don't have a dog. 어떻게 말해요? 개가 없어요. Again, the opposite word from 있다 becomes 없다. Don't you own a cat? 고양이가 없어요? He doesn't have a pencil. 연필이 없어요. Haven't we got milk? Don't we have milk? 우유가 없어요? Okay, please familiarize yourself into this structure so that you can make more natural Korean sentences, okay? So let's go to the exercises. Okay, pause the video. Do it yourselves. Let's do it together. Do you have a laptop? Laptop in Korean, don't get confused, we call it 노트북. So you have to say 노트북이 있어요? No, I don't have a laptop. 아니요, 노트북이 없어요. I have an iPad. iPad가 있어요. Very good. Okay, so test ourselves again after all this video. Compose the following sentences again in Korean. I'm a student. 저는 학생이에요. Noun이다. Number 2. I am at home. 저는 집에 있어요. Place에 있다. Number 3. I am pretty. 저는 예뻐요. Because the verbs and adjectives behave exactly the same in Korean. Final one. I have a dog. 개가 있어요. Because this object becomes the subject in Korean. Okay? Please repeat these videos as many times as you want so that you can compose any kind of these sentences without difficulties. Okay? Thank you very much. Good job, everyone. I'll see you in the next video.